Hey everybody, thanks for joining today. I want to thank you for taking time out and joining us for our annual research town hall from the Department of Medicine. I know people are going to filter in as we get started. I don't know how many of you, I can see some very familiar faces. Some of you have been to these REACH forums before. We do have them every month. It's for inspiration, not information, so it's actually usually about people's stories. We've done some educational sessions on funds flow because everybody's interested where their indirects go, so that's been a really important one, and Jimmy's sitting right here. But we do these every month, and the idea is that people present and tell their stories, and we do networking over nibbles, so we don't normally take questions at the podium. I'll take a few, the whole group, the panel will take a few today at the end, just for expediency's sake with all of you here, but then we'll move to the back and can ask anybody questions one-on-one. I want to start by realising and addressing that everybody in this room is probably really stressed and overwhelmed right now. There's been a lot going on in the last 10 days that's left us all feeling really stressed and uncertain. Our team feels exactly the same way. We all do research too, so we've been sort of caught up in this milieu of change that we really don't know what's going on. So we understand that you're all really stressed. That's top of our minds when we think about research and think about all of you who, we're here to work for you, and we know that these are really uncertain times and very difficult. We don't have any more information than you. I think that we're reading on Reddit and in all the news articles as well and trying to keep up. A few positive things have come up. Today I got from Eric Petrus. He started a newsletter for his division about research successes, so that buoyed my spirit first thing this morning. So I want to say thank you to Eric for that. And I think that all the advice that we can give right now is to carry on. The best defense is a good offense. Carry on, be as productive as you can, and we're here to support you. If there's something you need, please let us know. If you do end up getting a letter to stop work on any of your grants, please let your division head, Vineet and myself, and Tom Flagg, the Vice-Chancellor for Research, know immediately so that we can work with Office of Grants and Contracts and you. That's a very rare occurrence as yet, but I want to let you know we're here to support you, and the more you let us know, the more we can support you. So I'm sorry that we're giving this talk under these circumstances, but we will get through it together. I want to show you what we've done in this past year and let you know that we are working really hard for you and will continue to do so. So the first thing I have to do is thank the team. The team is myself, Mary Weiser-Evans, Fernando Olguin, who is now the Chief of Pulmonary, but he was part of our team up until last fall, and a lot of what you're going to see is work that included Fernando. Dr. Kemp, who runs all of our education programs, Alicia L.R. who is our financial wizard and does all of our post awards, Michelle Middleton, who's our administrator and comms person, and her job, some might say is herding cats, but it's more like turtles. It's a hard job, and she does it really well. And under Alicia L.R. we now have a post award core consisting of Hannah, Amanda, and Will, and it's the team's work that I'm going to talk about today. So our strategic plan is to create the vision is to create an integrated research ecosystem to help all of you be as successful as possible and make transformative discoveries that improve lives. That's our whole central mission. That's all we want to do every day. How are we going to get there? Some of you will remember a couple of years ago we did a lot of listening tours, and then the following year we had about 7 iterations of RISE and other programs we were thinking and got more and more feedback from you. And we learnt that there were 5 areas that we really needed to address to help you reach optimal success. That is access to research resources, investing in all of you and your research, connecting across divisions. Everyone talks about silos a lot, so we want to try and address that. Effective communications, and developing the talent that's in this room and exterior to this room. Everyone's working really hard. These symbols are what you'll see on our website. Everything's on our website, and you can access everything there. So you can see the symbols on the top of each tab here. They're collected the way you presented them to us during the listening tours in order of importance. The first thing you wanted was streamlined access to campus research resources. That is an ongoing effort campus-wide. The latest on this was to develop some kind of chatbot There's some various websites and so on, but let's be honest, websites are very 2014. We should be doing better than that now. We've already got those websites and it's still really confusing for all of us. So we're really working as a campus to try and figure out the best way to do that. We decided to overhaul the research website for one-stop shopping. Almost every question that we get in the research office, or that comes to my email or Mary's email or Jenny's email, is on the web. Not saying that you can't ask us questions, please do, we're happy to answer those, but there's a lot of information there and that's a really good place to go to get all of that information. We had a lot of trouble with turnover for post-award cores, especially in divisions that are smaller, only had one FTE doing all the grant post-award for that division. If there was any turnover, there was no one to do the work, it was a struggle to train someone else, there was no continuity. It was really very, very difficult for all of the investigators and the admin staff. So we've now started a post-award core where we have 3 FTE and they are currently supporting 5 divisions, 42 PIs and 144 grants. We have a business plan. We're going to grow this team, and any division that would like to buy in and get this support is welcome to do so. So far we have had a lot of success and getting great feedback that most of our investigators are happy, and we spend a lot of time working on the business plan and the service delivery model to make it better and better over time to make it more meet your needs, and we're open to any feedback in that regard. The big one, that's just a small bullet point here, space. You know that the campus rolled out a new space plan last year, which we presented at this town hall exactly a year ago. That is currently under assessment right now. We don't know if that will stay the same with the new dean or not, but at the moment we're carrying on implementing the model that was presented last year, and your division administrators know all about how to do that. We also thought it would be a good idea to create a T3, T4 hub. So we call it the HSR hub, or the Health Services Research Hub. And Dr. Chopra is going to talk about that in the next talk, because we've done a lot of work on that, and that's going to be fully implemented this year. This will be the last time I ever show this slide. So never again, last time, for real. The next item is to invest in our, I did something very bad. I don't know what. It was the last time. The very last time. Okay. So this symbol is our second item, our second category, which is invest in our researchers. And RISE was the first thing we wanted to do. You all asked for us to invest in you, and we developed RISE to do that. And you all know that you have to have a primary appointment in DOM. It's based on direct costs. You have to have an R, U or P or equivalent grant, BPI, additive as long as it counts under all the other rules. And if it's routed outside of DOM, it counts as long as you're a PI. There are 3 levels depending on the direct costs, and they add up. Oh, what is going on here? Sorry. So basically, level 1 is $20,000 per year to you, level 2 is $40,000, and level 3 is $50,000. The nice thing here is if it's your first ever RO1, you automatically get a bump from level 1 to level 2. So there are several people that qualified at the $20,000 who had their first RO1 that are receiving $40,000 a year to build their lab quickly and get ready for that second RO1. In terms of metrics, this program has gone from blue here is RAFP, which is the Research Intensive Faculty Program in 2023. That was the former plan. Orange, Bronco colours, by the way. I'm not a Broncos fan. I just decided to do something local. Hopefully no one's offended. The orange is RISE 2024 data, and you can see we more than tripled the number of people who had awards, the number of investigators. And people were really worried that it'd be all the fat cats up here that were getting all the funding. And actually, it's really enhanced the funding of our junior investigators, our early stage investigators, and our mid-career faculty. In terms of money, we've gone from $1.15 million for RAFP to nearly $3.5 million this year under RISE. Sorry, I wanted to put blinders and earmuffs on Dr. Chopra and Jimmy, but there you go. So we can all thank Jimmy and Dr. Chopra and your division heads for this. This requires division match, and I actually would like to give them a round of applause. This is a big deal. And I know you're all obsessed with indirects, right? Where do my F&A go? Why don't I get my F&A back? If you got your F&A back, you get a lot less back. The total F&A for both the department and the divisions is about $1.4 million. So in RISE alone, we're outspending this by double. That's the investment that the department's making in you and in research. We have created a program to encourage cross-divisional research, and that's Collaborate, which I'll talk about in the next section. And we spent $92,000 on that this year, and I'll tell you what we spent it on. The other thing we wanted to do was really create transparent policies and let you have one-stop shopping if you needed contributions for U&P grants that often require institutional investment, or you're going for an SBIR grant and need to show investment. That can all now be done online. You can look at our policies. If you're not sure when to ask, or if you can ask, the policy describes roughly how much we normally give, for what purposes, when to ask for the lower amounts, how to ask for the higher amounts, what kind of documentation we need. So you can do all of that online now to get those kinds of support. We also started a DOM bridge funding match program. We funded 6 awards at $300,000 this year. And we'll have ROI on that starting next year. Obviously, we need a year from funding to figure out if it was successful or not. Next, we're moving on to Connect Across Divisions, which is this symbol on our website. And what was central here is to make sure that everybody who does research, PIs, junior investigators, research staff in the lab or in the clinic, getting consent, that you're all stakeholders in everything we do for research in this department. We tried to build everything around that idea. And we did 24 presentations in town halls in 2023 and 7 in 2024 to keep you up to date with what we're doing and get your feedback. And one of the things that we started this year was the Research Director Affinity Group. This is not working now, I'll just point, oh, now it's doing something else. So the idea of the Research Affinity Director Group is to have bilateral communication and bilateral exchange of ideas. So what this does on the division side is it lets your representatives amplify anything we're thinking about, any deadlines that are coming up, making sure you're aware of what funding is available through the department, and they can talk to you about that directly. They can also take all of your ideas and feedback back to this group. We meet quarterly. And it creates a really great pool of talent to use for reviews. So if we're doing research day and we need people to review abstracts for prizes, we've got a bunch of people with great expertise from all the divisions to help us do those reviews. You're not just relying on Mary, Fernando and I, or Mary, Fernando and I and 2 other people we ask randomly. It's a whole group of people who also give feedback on our REACH forums, our research day plans, and any other feedback they get from you. We have started Research Achievement Highlights. This is our February offering. These are all the topics from last year. We had some really successful ones. The story behind the money had people literally weeping, people rolling around laughing. It was a great experience to be in the room with people talking about their trials and tribulations of maintaining funding over time. Research Day, we had over 150 people last year. Dynamic Duos wasn't well attended, unfortunately. It was great. It was the power of mentor-mentee dyads, and at every stage, from undergraduate students to people who have left and are associate professors at other institutions and still work with their mentor here. So I really would like to invite you all to attend these monthly forums. They're in your calendar. Please attend if you can. These are some of the ideas that we have for 2025. Most of them are already scheduled. Please show up if you can. It's also a great way. I don't know if you ever know how hard it is to get on Dr. Chopra's calendar or Dr. Stenholm's calendar. They always come. So come, there's only 40 to 45 minutes of material. If you need to speak to them, they're at the back of the room having networking over nibbles afterwards. So it's just another nice way you can connect with leadership as well. You know that Research Day is really a fantastic time to get together and connect. We really do focus a lot on making sure we have representation across T0 to T4 research and getting input and making sure that we have presentations by our research professionals and our students and our junior faculty. So this is a place where everybody is included and everybody does a great job. And we have tried to make sure that we have enhanced engagement from our staff and students. And on that note, we've actually spent a lot of time last year and continue this year to nominate our research staff for awards. So if you have research staff that you think are doing a great job and you would like us to nominate them on behalf of all of DOM, please send us their CVs and names and some paragraphs about them. We just nominated, we did, I think, 14 or 15 nominations for CU Anschutz Research Awards this year, and 3 of those were for research professionals, which we're really happy about and we hope that they win. The other thing we've done is this Collaborate program that I said we spent $92,000 on this year. This requires a multi-functional team. You have to have at least 1 MD, 1 PhD, and 1 early stage investigator to do interdisciplinary research as a new team. So only 2 of the existing members can have published together or been funded together. You only have to add 1 other person. Some teams have added 3 new people that have never worked together. It's 2 phases. It's the team formation, which are $3,000, and we did 4 of those this year. And these folks really just have to get together and form an idea that's worthy of applying for some kind of pilot funding, some kind of internal funding. And then the larger 40,000 pilots, there are 2 requirements for this, and that is that they publish a paper together within 1 year, which had people saying, nobody can publish a paper in a year, but it can be a review paper, because we all know if you're going to apply for an MPI grant, it's really important to show that you've published together. And then at 18 months to submit an MPI R01. So where are we? We've had our 4-month progress reports from all of our team formation, and 100% of them, honestly blew my mind, have made progress. They have all started breeding animals, running experiments, adding assays to samples they had in the freezer, meeting regularly. It's been super impressive to see. And we have the 8-month progress reports coming up for the 1-year full pilots in April. But I know for a fact that one of the 2 teams has already submitted a review paper and they're only 6 months in. So this has been really great to get people working together across divisions. One of the main criteria for receiving funding in either category is you get a higher score for the more divisions you have participating. So if you have all 3 PIs from one division, it's probably going to rank lower for funding than something that has folks from 3 different divisions. And all the ones that got funded did actually have folks from at least 2 divisions. Some had 3 divisions and some had 2 divisions and an external department. So it really has gotten some people together that wouldn't be together otherwise. Effective communication. So there's a big smiley face here because you all asked for that, and it's my number 1 pet peeve myself. Don't send me an email, just stop clogging my email box. And you won't find this symbol up in the top left on our website because hopefully you've already noticed. The central to our theme here is that we have sent you calendar appointments for our important events. So this Reach Forum and Research Day are on your calendar. We don't send you any emails about those at all. Everything you need to know about every program and date is also on our website. And we really just advertise through Medicine Monthly. We're not sending you emails about every seminar Jenny's giving, every program we run, every due date. We're not doing that. It's all in Medicine Monthly or online. Anything big is on your calendar. And the other thing we did to stop really annoying all of our clinical colleagues is we started getting a list from PRISM, and we send research communications and calendar appointments only to those people that do greater than or equal to 1% research on their PRISM, rather than all faculty. So that cut down the number of people that we sent things to by about 1,000. I'm sure those 1,000 people are very grateful. Finally, develop our talent, which is the Blackboard icon in the top left on our website. We wanted to provide grant writing expertise and education. This is all run by Dr. Jenny Kemp, our professional grant writer. We have a whole bunch of seminars coming up this year. You can go to any of them as you choose. And then for the last year, we've been running a series of 9 weekly sessions, primarily aimed at people writing their first to second R01, so it's specifically for R01 writing. We've had 3 groups, 18 participants, 13 submissions, NIH R01 submissions so far. 1 was funded, Two were not funded and 10 are pending. This program also addresses resubmissions if you need to sign up and do this for resubmission. And on the other end of the spectrum, what did people think about what was offered? Jenny got the most amazing feedback. This is just the numbers, but the comments about how supportive it was and how helpful it was to have that peer group together to give you motivation to write was really inspiring. So the other thing that Alicia LRLee does is provide monthly training sessions for division administrators on NIH and OGC pre and post award. These are attended by almost every administrator in DOM and even in other departments now. Alicia, if you've ever met Alicia, goes through everything at light speed, so it's really quick, but she provides links for everything. So anything that's new, anything that's changed, anything that OGC wants a new way, she sends out the slides and all the administrators have it there to make it more efficient so that we haven't got 32 people all looking up the same thing. It's right there for them. New right now, and thank you, I see some of you in the room that really contributed to this effort. We have a library of sample attachments for NIH SF 424 guidelines, and we covered T0 to T4 grants, so there should be a sample there that really fits whatever you're doing. They're all anonymised, so it's almost like a redacted, FBI document, black, black, black. It's just got brackets and it says name, name, name. But we have an extensive 30 or 40 documents up there for you to choose from and look at. Again, we've really taken to heart that we need to nominate people and highlight what you're all doing, and we've put a lot of time and effort into making sure we're nominating faculty and staff for research awards, 15 this year that we nominated. So we had a great showing with the awards that we won last year for the campus awards, and we're hoping that that continues this year to highlight the great work everybody's doing. The 2025 initiative is our early stage investigator initiative, and Dr. Mary Weiser Evans will be talking about that in a moment. I just want to finish off by saying here are all the categories. The colours in this graph denote the same colours on the left-hand side, and you can see that in 2023 there was a total investment of $1.68 million, most of which, 77%, went straight back to our researchers in bridge funding, RAFP, TRSP, those kinds of programs. Can you please cover your ears and your eyes? But this year, in 2024, we have a total investment of $4.2 million. And most of that, we've even increased the amount that's going back directly to you. Even though the number is triple, the amount going back to you has increased to 82% to support all the work you do, and also make sure that if you do need bridge funding, that we're supporting you through that period as well. With that, I will turn over to Dr. Chopra. Would you like the mic?
I'll go behind over there. All right, can we get a round of applause for Janine and the research team? Janine always does this, and I always get palpitations when she shows these numbers. But I want to be very clear when I say this is some of the best money we will spend in the department. And so I have no worries about this. I am actually very delighted that we're investing the way we are, because we certainly need to. And I also want to sort of call out Janine's opening comments about where we are today. So in the past 2 weeks, I have received no less than 192 emails from many people on not just in the department, but across campus. And I would summarize some of the comments in those emails or those sentiments as follows. I think the most prevalent sentiment I've heard is despair. What's happening? Who's advocating for us? I've received emails with anger about just the current situation, the sense of sort of hopelessness, if you like, that I think is prevalent out there. And I've also received emails about a lack of clear communication from leaders across campus in terms of where we are and where we need to go. So I want to say a couple of things about it. First of all, some of you hopefully have heard back from me. Each of those emails is in a folder, and I'm writing back as soon as I can, because I do think it's important to address each one in a very direct and unique way. Number two, it is a very difficult time, and I want to acknowledge that. And it's difficult because there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of noise, sort of, I would say, flashbang type stuff that's happening at DC. And the precise implications of that for the biomedical research enterprise is as yet unclear. And I think that makes me very anxious to begin with, but also when I see those numbers, it also makes me feel very worried about where are we going at the end of the day. In the last 2 weeks, I've had at least 2 or 3 direct meetings with congresswomen and congressmen. This morning, in fact, I was on with Dr. Falta, where we actually had a very direct conversation about what's happening behind closed doors. And I will tell you, sort of summarizing from what I heard, number one, behind closed doors, people are much more reasonable in terms of the political spectrum, because I think they recognize that what's happening is unhelpful. The words today were, health is not a partisan issue. It affects all of us. It affects everything we do. It is actually a national security issue if you think about where we are today and how we invest our dollars and what's happening with some of our competitors. Think about what happened with China last week with DeepSeek and AI and how they're sort of jumping ahead of us. We can't take the foot off the gas in many ways. And then last but not least, there are significant implications for what happens to our work in terms of clinical trials, our patients, our patient care. And when you stop these things, it's very difficult to put it back together. And I will say that I heard that from every single Congress representative I spoke to. I have a meeting later this week with one of our senators to talk directly about this. And I'm sharing this with all of you because you may not have heard this, and you haven't heard it because these are conversations happening at the highest levels where it's unclear how the conversations will go, but I want you to know that the conversations are happening. Last week at the Dean State of the School, I asked him to be very direct about this and call this out. I think among the leaders, there's so much uncertainty that they're worried about saying things that may not actually pan out or actually say things that would provide reassurance that may actually paradoxically cause more anxiety. For example, last week we had something called the lifeboat exercise where we said, all right, if we have that much money left, what are we going to do with it? It was not a pleasant meeting, I'll say right now. But I want you just to hear that these are conversations happening in terms of how we're thinking about this. 2 things I will say about this before I move on. Number one is there is no doubt in my mind about the commitment of this organization and the leaders to the research enterprise. I have seen decisions made in the past couple of weeks where they have put money in knowing that there's no money coming to support it. They've done that actually fairly quickly and fairly willingly. There's a calculus obviously involved. It's not infinite in terms of research supply and dollars. But for things like T32s, where it was a pretty clear decision as to what should be done, the decision happened very quickly. And so I want you to know that. Those decisions have already been made. Number 2 is, I think what I heard from our leaders on the Hill and what I'm hearing from folks in advocacy organizations is that good sense will ultimately prevail. It's not going to be easy the next few weeks as we go through a lot of this, but I am always the optimist. And I will always bring the news back to you, whether it's bad or good. But just know that lack of news doesn't mean that no one's not paying attention. It's just that we really don't know. And so it's coming from a place of not wanting to be alarmist, but it's also coming from a place of wanting to provide the right support and assurance. So I want you to know I hear that, I feel that, I understand that. Each of you who have written to me will get an email reply from me with your unique situation as well. But I feel very good about the department and who we are and what we stand for. I feel very good about the school and our values because I think those are unquestionable. I do worry about resources. I worry about cash in the bank. I worry about how we're going to actually make all that work if the worst were to happen. But hey, study sections are back online. People are going to meetings this month. I've been talking to POs across who are actually saying we're getting back to work in many ways. So I think the machinery is coming back. I would just ask all of you to sit tight, okay? Because it's unclear how this is going to go. I just have to believe that it's going to end up in a place where there will be implications and repercussions at the next polls and the next elections, and there will probably be some consequences in terms of what happens at the ballot box. That's all I can hope for, okay? All right, so I'll say that, and then I'll get into the fun part of the talk, which is our HSR hub and vision. So a couple of things. You've already heard me talk about this. Let me just give you the quick skinny. This is really about providing resources for those that are on the T3, T4, and T5 on the implementation science spectrum. And it's really around providing a number of different aspects of support. My big vision in all of this is to create a thriving community, to allow for health services researchers, policy researchers, implementation scientists to come together to leverage each other's expertise and work better together. And there are a number of programs, a number of unique portfolios across campus that I think we can tap into. You'll see some of them there. And again, my vision here is if we can actually get a lot of these folks working together, I think we can actually get some really good science going. This is how I think the top institutions in this country do it. You have somebody who does health economics, you have somebody who actually does implementation work, you have somebody who does policy work, you get together, you've got the incredible makings of a program science grant. And that's where I think we need to go as well. And this obviously comes with investment, as Janine reminds me. This is not about just goodwill. We have to invest in resources and programs, and I'm excited about doing this as well. So my vision then is to build this cross-divisional network of health services researchers that actually doesn't try to replicate what's happening on campus, but actually tries to leverage what's happening on campus within existing CU Amchute services. Again, the goals are to increase collaboration and team science. That's a key aspect where I think we are lacking and we could do better as a department. Again, create the opportunity for large grants, P's and U's. Most importantly, support our junior faculty who are really thinking about career development. Our launch teams are a perfect example of this, where we bring different experts together to be in the room to help grow our people and to provide access to this HSR infrastructure, where as an individual or as a person in a division, you may not have all the resources you need, but through this larger mechanism, you can tap into a lot of those aspects. So Janine always wants me to have overarching aims. What's the aims of this program? Here are my 4 aims: to develop the community, to think about team science and actually foster proposals across the department, across the school, across our affiliates, to support the professional development of our health services research faculty, to provide access to methods which are often available in the department but live in silos, to make that more visible, and importantly, to provide access to secondary data sources and analysts so that the work is actually being done as a team as opposed to you're having to have everything ready for yourself. So a lot of work we've done so far. Janine has put together a number of stakeholder input sessions, including with division heads and researcher town halls. Some of you have been there. Thank you for attending as well. We've done some mapping of what are the existing resources on campus and how do we actually think about leveraging those. A lot of conversations with Accords and the Accords director, and I think that we're very aligned in our missions here in terms of how we want to do this. And we've talked even to the CCTSI to perhaps create a DOM health services research spot in the K-12 program. So to develop kind of a quasi-fellowship for health services that's DOM funded as well. And then I've heard this from all of you and across our department. You know, you can't do this without data. People here guard data like treasure. It's my data set, you can't have it. It's my analyst, you can't have it. That is almost the antithesis of how you do collaborative science. And so we want to democratize the data and make it available to everyone. So what we've thought about is actually expanding Accord services. Sometimes Accords, there are blocks there in terms of getting access to folks or to people, and to think about how to make this much easier by providing financial support to Accords and vice versa to increase staff and faculty with needed expertise. Accords has incredible mentorship and incredible faculty that can provide us with everything we need for a training infrastructure for T3, T4 researchers. So really, how do we leverage that? How do we make that more available? A large part of this is wayfinding. There's a lot of resources in this center, but it's typically hard to find what you need because you really don't know who to go to and how to find some of that. And then one of the things that Accords has not necessarily invested in heavily, which I'm hoping we will under this new umbrella, is to build capacity for secondary data sets and for analytical support. So for those of you who don't know Accords, this is actually a slide from Jerica's State of the State for Accords. Accords has incredible amounts of research cores and expertise. Everything from learning health systems, the LHS at the top, to biostatistics, to training and mentoring, to quantitative and qualitative research, to dissemination and implementation, and even to pragmatic trials. Everything is right there. We just need to figure out how to access it, how to leverage it, how to make it available, and how to make sure people are using what's here on this campus. Accords has done this and made it available to lots of folks. So you can kind of see here in terms of our current primary and co-mentors. They truly are campus specific in terms of how they support folks. And this is the slide that I think I want you to look at. Just in terms of the DOM, you look at folks who are in K Awards, As of the time of this slide being put together, there are 14 mentors working on 5 DOMK award mentees. So far, we've got 23 awards submitted through Accords and 11 of those funded. That's a pretty good batting ratio for K Awards through the center. So the engagement's there. We just need to multiply the efforts. So here's one example of how we're going to do that. This is around data. So we're going to start with a fairly straightforward data set. It's called MarketScan. It's good for a lot of important research questions around drugs, around sort of expenses, around the use of various resources. We, the DOM, will purchase the data set. That data set will then live on a healthcare policy research in our division, one of our servers, which Mark Greitz, who's sitting here, has actually helped create. Access to that data will come through Accords. So Accords will set up an online application process where you sort of say, here's what I want to do, here's what I'm looking to do, here's kind of my analytical background and support. That then generates an in-person meeting with an Accords analyst, a subject matter expert from that data set, to actually sit down with you to say, okay, let's talk about this and make sure you've got the right resources, the right support. And if the answer to those is yes, then great. We do what's called a statement of work and begin to work. And if the answer is no, then the core goal here is to help you figure out what you're missing and what you need to be able to be successful. And then we'll have analytical support and optional faculty expertise as needed. And I'm thinking here about the residents, the fellows, like the junior faculty who are looking to get an abstract out of this. Even our folks who are really thinking about that initial question where I need some preliminary data. How often do you use a biologic in rheumatoid arthritis? Is there variation across hospitals for the use of this specific drug? Very easy questions, nothing crazy, but MarketScan allows you to start to look at this data. And this is the first of what I hope are more resources and data sets that we'll create using this infrastructure. I use this as an example only to show you how tightly knit we will be with Accords when this goes live. We will own the data will be bought by us, it'll live in our servers, which means we have access to it. We can do all the data use agreements, all that stuff to allow for people to access the data, but we're going to rely on Accords and the Accords enterprise and infrastructure to provide a lot of the back end that we need as well. And I think this is a win-win-win for not just the faculty members or the folks interested in the data set, but also for the department and for Accords as I think about future grants and future work as well. So all this doesn't work unless somebody's driving it, and I am today pleased to announce that we have a new Associate Vice Chair for Health Services Research. That person is Dan Matlock. I see some smiles in the room. That's great. Dan's online, I think, or hopefully he is. If not, then you get to tell him that he was here today on the screen. Dan, as many of you know, is a mentor's mentor. He's an incredibly kind and competent human being. He's in geriatrics. He has deep expertise in shared decision-making and in patient-centered care. He actually is very connected with Accords, in many ways allows for that tight bond to be formed between the two organizations. And he has mentored and supported many, many people. So he will have these responsibilities for us going forward. Dan's not signed his offer letter yet. It is routing, but he has told me I can share this. So consider him sealed and done now and delivered. And if you do see him around, please do extend congratulations to him. I think this is a big win for us in the Department of Medicine. Thanks very much. And I think I'll turn it over to Jenny next, is that right? To talk about research development education programs. I'll also stick around a little bit afterwards if you want to talk about what's happening across the campus as well. Thanks again.
All right, so today I will talk to you about a couple of things. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what Janine brought up when she was speaking about the new research development education programs we've been running and that we're starting. And then second, I will also talk to you about some of the new NIH policies that are being rolled out. We don't have time to get into a ton of details about this, so you can talk to me later, but I want to give you an overview so everybody has a heads up that these things are coming. So I'll tell you about 4 offerings we have under research development. So first is a series of 5 different seminars. It's actually not a series. You can go to one or you can go to all. We started this back in the fall, and we're actually doing the 3rd offering, resubmissions, next week. So I hope some of you can join me for that. And these are just 1-hour seminars that are open to everyone. So you don't have to register, just show up and join the conversation. Second is the workshop series that Janine told you about. So this is the 9-part workshop for faculty. We're focusing primarily on people who are applying for their second R01 here. And it is something that you have to apply to because we can only take 5 to 7 people per round. And we're about to start the 4th round of this now in March. So if you know somebody who's working on their second R01 especially, please tell them about this opportunity. And we have a lot of fun in these. We share swap proposals, tear them apart, put them back together, hopefully leave at the end with proposals that are greatly improved and have a better shot at funding success. Okay, we're also about to do a specific Ames page workshop that focuses just on this one really critical page. We're starting in March. I'm doing this with some of my wonderful colleagues. So Christine Erlandson, Paul McLean, and Sonia Flores are all doing this with me. We're going to focus on R's and K's in this 2-part workshop. And we do ask you to sign up for this one. And then finally, this is a new set of really discussion sessions, not as much seminars, but this is being put together by Janine and our colleague from Emergency Medicine, Ann Libby. So we're actually focusing on 2 things. So grant writing is one, and also there will be a series on lab management. So please scan this code and go find out more about this series as well. All right. You may have heard that there are a few NIH changes coming and not the big ones that we're all worried about. This will be hopefully less disruptive to your life. First, this has actually been in effect since October. I just want to make sure everybody knows this because it's kind of a little different. So you may no longer charge your laptop, for instance, to your NIH grant. So they're now saying that if you need to charge your computer to your grant, you have to have a strong scientific justification. So if you need help with what that means and how to justify your computers now, talk to your grants administrators. All right, you may have heard that as of last week, all proposals that are submitted here forward are going to be subject to some new review criteria. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Long story short, I think it's probably not as an extreme a change as we were expecting, possibly. So it is a change, but it's more of a change to how your proposals are reviewed, not necessarily how you're putting your proposals together. And then finally, starting this May, there's going to be a new electronic format for biosketches and also for your other support documents that you're going to have to put together. This is something I'm advising everyone to start working on now because it will take you a little bit of doing. It shouldn't be super painful, but it will take you a few hours on an afternoon sometime. So, all right, let me tell you more about the new review criteria. So first, this doesn't apply to all the mechanisms yet. It might in the future, but for right now, it's only R's and U mechanisms that this is applying to. NIH's justification is that, or the rationale for bringing this in is that it's supposedly going to allow the reviewers to focus more on your science and less on you and your reputation. I think part of the idea is this should help more early stage investigators get ahead. So we'll see if that actually happens. That remains to be seen. But time will tell on that one. So what is the change? Basically, the 5 original review criteria that you're probably all familiar with if you've submitted an NIH grant anytime: significance, innovation, approach, investigator, and environment. These are now going to be kind of lumped together into 3 criteria, and I'll show you how in a second. Additionally, many or most of the additional review considerations that you get commented on at the end of your summary statement, those are going to be shifted to the NIH staff and away from peer review. So here's the old system: significance, innovation, approach, investigator, environment. Now they've simplified, they're saying, the system into 3 factors. So factor 1 is the importance of the research. Factor 2 is rigor and feasibility. And factor 3 is expertise and resources. Now, this sounds wildly different at first glance, but if you read the fine print, basically they're just merging significance and innovation and now calling it importance of the research. There's some more details, but basically it's significance and innovation merged together now. Factor 2 is basically what we used to think of as the approach. You will still write the approach section, but it will be reviewed as rigor and feasibility. Factor 3 is basically what we used to think of as investigator and environment. So now these two criteria are lumped together under Factor 3, called expertise and resources. So let me tell you a little bit more about each of these. So importance is kind of like significance. It's basically how important is your proposed research. This factor is scored 1 through 9, similar to how things were scored previously. Factor 2, rigor and feasibility, is also scored 1 through 9 as before. And I can tell you, they're looking at how rigorous and feasible your methods are. It includes the approach, and if you read, you can all go to the website and read this, there's lots of details, but there are quite a few additional specific items that they're going to be looking for very carefully, falling largely under rigor and feasibility. So this section is scored 1 through 9, and it's something that I think you're going to have to pay a little more attention to, these additional specific items that they've laid out. Okay, factor 3 is not actually scored individually. You do not get a score on this. They give you like a pass-fail. They're calling it acceptable or not acceptable. And they're supposed to not take into account as much whether, how your status in the field, as much as just whether you are qualified and experienced enough to do this research. So that's what they're saying, at least. And even though it's not scored individually, this criterion will be considered in the overall impact score. All right, so here are some details, and this is taken straight from the NIH on the factor 2, rigor and feasibility, which I alluded that is a little more complicated than it was before. So they're evaluating you on the potential for your work to produce unbiased, robust, and reproducible data. For feasibility, can the studies be completed well within the proposed time frame? Okay, and we'll do questions at the end. And I know there are going to be a lot of questions on these. So I can tell you, and this is me again on this slide talking, not the NIH anymore. So from my perspective, it's not quite as big a change as we thought it was going to be. My advice to you is you're going to write basically the same proposal. If you look at the NIH language, they're telling you write the same proposal. I would say write basically the same proposal, but do pay a lot more attention now to the details of your approach. You'll be using the same sections and overall format that you've been writing with all along. It's just with some more detail now. So be sure you go read all the fine print regarding everything they're looking for, especially within rigor and feasibility, and just make sure you address every detail. And as you're doing this, I advise you to really make it super reviewer friendly, make it very easy to find all this information, use nice clear subheadings, group all the important details here. Just make it super foolproof so that the reviewers cannot fail to find all this new information that they're supposed to be evaluating you on. All right, and so the last change I mentioned is this new BioSketch and other support format, and so it's really not a revision of the format. It's basically the same BioSketch that you've always been doing for the last 5 years since they changed the format the last time. But now you're going to have to put it into an electronic format using their software, and you can talk to your grants administrator for more details on how to do this. Just suffice it to say that this is something, if you're planning to submit anytime soon, I would go ahead and get this process going now. And that is all I have. And we'll take questions at the end.
Which talking?
That's go forward.
Okay.
That's reverse. That's power.
Need a quick tech lesson here. Thanks for being here, everyone, this afternoon. I'm going to talk about a new initiative that we're trying to get together for this year that's really focused on our early stage investigators. And there we go. Our vision for the ESI initiative is to facilitate the advancement, satisfaction, and success of our ESIs. From our original, however many town halls we did back in 2022, I believe it was, we had a lot of ESIs who felt somewhat neglected. And it became apparent that we had to come up with an initiative that directly affects their success as a faculty member. So our overarching goal is to enhance the research careers of our ESI faculty and enable them to reach the full potential. Our strategy to approach this, first of all, we had to figure out what ESIs really wanted. We wanted to conduct a needs assessment. I reached out to leadership within the Department of Medicine, including all division chiefs, DFAs, and the Research Affinity Group, to assemble a list of not just faculty members, but actually ESIs, including MD and PhD fellows, instructors, assistant, and research assistant professors. From that list, we actually had well over 600, but I want you to keep in mind a lot of the individuals we identified are APPs, but we wanted to reach them in case there are some APPs out here that have an interest in research. Following developing the list, we contacted everyone. We set up 4 in-person town halls. Out of those 4 town halls, we had about 40 plus ESIs attended in person. We also offered it via Zoom. We offered it on different days at different times to reach more faculty members. These 40 ESIs provided about 58 comments to us directly in the in-person events, and then we received another about 37 online anonymous comments. And we did not have all the divisions represented. Unfortunately, that was unfortunate to me, but we did have a good representation for the really research-intensive ESIs that we had. Out of the town halls, we had 3 major themes that really fell out. And I do want to point out a lot of what I'm going to be saying here. There's a lot of overlap between what Sunita is going to say about what Janine has already presented and what Jenny has already presented. So number 1, you've already seen this from Janine. One of the major themes was an investment in our ESIs in particular. There were a lot of suggestions that we should have some kind of a career development award addition or comparable piece to the RISE program. We have not talked about financials yet, so stay tuned. There were discussions about equitable startups across divisions for internal and external hires. That's a difficult one that we can address in the questioning period. They were looking for discounts on core facilities, for biostats needs, for better pre- and post-award support. They were really looking for collaborative grant opportunities that are directed specifically for ESIs, not necessarily having to bring in more established investigators for like Collaborate, for instance. And then finally, there was a lot of concern, especially about from the K awardees, about the availability of office and lab space. It was viewed that a lot of our K awardees are not given their own office or lab space, and that doesn't make them look very independent when it comes to the actual NIH and moving forward. So that was a major concern. The second major theme was in educational opportunities. We have pre-K mock study sections. Paul McLean, I believe, runs that mostly. What they were asking for is similar to Jenny's educational opportunities. They would like to see pre-K workshops, how to put together a K award or other career development awards. And I think working with Jenny, we might be able to accomplish that, something like that. They want some improved onboarding. A lot of them feel like they're running around completely lost and siloed in the division and not knowing where to find things. How to navigate Department of Medicine operations, how to find available campus resources, how to understand grant workflow. When we say OGC, no one knows what OGC is apparently. So we really have to get better education to our ESIs so they understand what is expected when you want to submit a grant. And finally, just in general, more information out there. We want to really make our ESIs feel like they're stakeholders in the department. And finally, they wanted, this was an interesting one to me, they want workshops introducing basic scientists to translational research. I thought that was excellent. I'm not sure how to accomplish that, but that's an excellent comment that we can address in the future. So the last major theme that fell out was really in career development, and this is something that I think working with Sunita as well, we could improve the career development of our ESIs. One thing in particular is establishing a K club, for lack of a better word. This would be a formal forum, monthly potentially, that addresses everything related to research, including scientific writing, grant writing, papers, negotiating financial and space issues. How do you negotiate a salary? How do you negotiate a startup package? Really, experts coming in to talk about networking skills and, quite frankly, research social events to see who's out there across the department. They are interested in better understanding benchmarks to promotion, and I believe that has been in progress. They are looking for access to examples of funded career development awards. We all know we can go to our friends who received a K award, but some of them don't actually know K awardees. So actually having access to something that was very successfully funded would, I think, help them understand what needs to go into a K award. Access to better admin support, checklists on what's really required to put together a K award or an R grant. Highlighting research by ESIs, I didn't feel appreciated for the most part. Really getting the message out in our monthly newsletter and other ways of highlighting the successes of our ESIs. We've been doing that at Research Day, and we've been doing that through nominations for different awards across this campus as well as within the Department of Medicine. And then finally, some kind of a virtual space to find expertise on campus. We have Colorado Profiles already available. It's a searchable website. You can put in an interest in research and get a list of all the investigators on campus that might have something related to that area. So our next steps, first step really moving forward is to put together this K Club. And again, I'm envisioning this, but I'm very open to comments from everybody in the audience as well as anyone else out there. Really what you would like. Monthly are expert speakers on topics that I already covered, and regular research social events to get to know who's out there. We've already put together an example of the grant forms. We don't yet have examples of successful K awards, so we could potentially work on that one. And we are already recognizing and nominating our ESIs on campus. And with that, I am done, and I'm going to turn it over to Sunita.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about a pilot initiative that we've rolled out in the Department of Medicine, and this is in collaboration with research leadership, educational leaders, and clinician leadership alike. This seminar series is called Ascend. Some of you may already have heard about it, but I wanted to talk about it briefly because I think it really, apropos of the last conversation, really is an initiative that I think is really important for people who are early stage investigators to kind of mid-career. The goal of this initiative is really to think about career topics that are essential for career development. This is whether you're a researcher, educator, or clinician. These topics span the gamut. I'm going to go into a little bit of what the topics are. These are dedicated lunch and learn sessions. It's going to be run in 2 cohorts on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They meet once a month. Again, while I say the target audience is early career individuals, these are topics that are really essential for people across the kind of career continuum. The topics that are covered in this initial pilot series are things that are really important, again, for career development. Last week, we rolled out the initial spot, which was really CV building. It was a boot camp for CV building. As you can see here, there are a variety of other different types of career topics that are, again, really important for development across the continuum. Importantly, each and every one of these topics are provided by leaders from the Department of Medicine and across the school. While these are in-person sessions and are really meant to be a series of topics that are really covered over a course of 6 months, each of these topics are going to also be available online, so they're going to be recorded, so you'll be able to have access to these topics asynchronously as well. I wanted to just highlight that these are in-person sessions. We do provide lunch. They're meant to be interactive, and I will say last week's sessions were really good. People brought a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of questions, so I really invite all of you to attend if you're able to. Right now, we're having people to commit to the entire series, but as spots are available, people can also sign up for one topic at a time. So please join us. I think this will give us some information about additional topics that will be important for the K Club and other initiatives that we're going to roll out for faculty development. So I invite you to come, and I would love to hear feedback about how these sessions go. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about this.